Are you ready to see a cinematic? Yeah, we're ready to see this cinematic.
I love the smell of entrails in the morning. Let's whip them like the dogs they are. Down on your knees. With each soul claimed, my power grows.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I think I'm Mad Capper. I might just be demonetized Capper after that intro. Welcome back to the channel and another video on Watcher of Realms. Today we're on the test server. That is right. We have had the honor and privilege to have test server access, and I want to feature the first of a couple different videos on some new champions coming your way. This one is, in case you haven't figured it out by the cinematic or the title or the thumbnail, this is Lust. Lust is a nightmare faction fighter and a bit of a dominatrix. Hey, look, the reality is Lust is one of the 7 deadly sins. It is the sin of lust, not just lust, but the sin of lust. Therefore, it is the corruption of love, the corruption of sexual tension into lust, and she is all of that. Let's take a look at her kit. Let's take a look at some of the damage numbers she can do in this first look showcase. I warn you, 2 things. Number 1, this is the test server. As you can see the test server up there, not live in the game yet. This is a coming soon to a game near you. Number 2, I don't have the best gear on here because the gear we get is different than the gear we will have I have on my main account, for example. So it'll take some time to get that gear kind of even approaching what it was. So the good news is that we're going to do an apples to apples comparison here. And this is just a first look. I'm not doing a full synergy team. I just want to take a look at her pure damage. Say you just jumped into the game, she's in it, she's on a banner, you pulled her. What is she going to do for you? That's the kind of thing I'm doing today. And to do that, we're going to take her into the guild boss. Easy. We're going to let her fire away on her own with a little help from Dolores and Aelin just to bring heals, although on easy you really don't need them. And then we're going to compare her to a couple other champions. Falcia, who is another fighter. She was an exclusive banner, and someone who kind of the same thing, right? What can you do with Falcia? I think they compare very nicely in just kind of their, not necessarily their role, but in their entrance into Watcher of Realms. And then we're going to show what kind of against Hex. Now, of course, Hex's damage, well, we'll talk about that all later when we see all the results. But before we do that, we want to take a look at her skill set. And to do that, I'm first going to start with Arrogance. Arrogance here is her bond skill, and bond skills, if you have, like me, Silas and Vierna, you may know bond skills are obscene, and this one I don't feel is much different. It is a crazy skill, especially with how quickly you can cycle through to get the Hellfire ultimate, which is an auto ultimate from Arrogance. Hits really hard. This is just going to make it hit much harder because if you have both, you're going to increase attack by 15% during the effect of Hellfire, which means whatever his attack is, extra 15% during Hellfire, which is insane. That's not off of his base stat that I'm aware. That is off his total attack during the ultimate, an extra 15%, which means he's going to hit very hard. So that alone, amazing. But let's talk about her kit. Let's start with her bond skill. If you have Arrogance on the team, she gets, during the ultimate, deals an extra 20% damage. All damage dealt to enemies inflicts burning. So she's going to get extra damage and burning skill for 5 seconds on an ultimate. Let's take a look at that ultimate. It is a manual ultimate, a 20-second duration, reasonable skill cost, and during the ultimate deals 40% more damage, and each basic attack lands 4 lashes in a row, lasting for 20 seconds. Obviously, you can see we have her fully booked, so that is a -100 cost and a +5 duration. Let's move on to her basic. Her basic, which has booked for 20% extra damage, randomly attacks enemy in range 2 times, each dealing 100% damage, with a 15% chance to attack allies instead. Keep in mind, this is the first champion that attacks allies. Why does she attack allies? Well, we'll see in just a moment. But to know that if the target is an ally, deals damage equal to 5% of the target's current HP. So it doesn't hit very hard. It's kind of a love tap, kind of a lusty tap, one might say, with that little whip of hers. And then we move over to her passive. So what's going on here? Sinful Lash. Every time Sinful Lash is triggered, deals 300% damage to a random enemy in range. It increases the attack speed by 40, stacking up to 3 times. This tells me right away that the best way to build her, which we're not going to build her for this video at least, is with tons of speed. That's going to be her synergy. But again, right now we just want to look at damage. But you can also see the attack speed increase is increased by 10 when fully booked. Then her other passive, Agonizing Delight, gains 30% damage upon dealing damage to allies. Remember, with a 15% chance to hit an ally. So she's get a 5-second boost to her damage by 30%. And then hopefully we'll be able to see that on the when we attack the guild boss to take a look at her damage. Now, if the targeted ally belongs to the Nightmare Council, there is a 50% chance to restore 10% rage for the target. Now, what I see here immediately in her kit is that she's probably going to do good damage, probably not crazy damage. She's not going to out damage the best of the best, but she's going to have a good synergy in a Nightmare team. I also see, because we've got RNG on RNG, right? Because the first thing we have to do is we have to have that 15% chance to attack an ally. So 15% chance, and then if it is, and it's a Nightmare Council, so if you have multiple, you have Nightmare and non-Nightmare, there is also RNG as to whether or not the random ally hits is a Nightmare. So, hint, hint. If you're using her in a mixed team, make sure that all the Nightmare people are within her attack range and all the non-Nightmare people aren't. Just a thought. And then it's going to be a 50-50 chance of increasing rage. So the faster you get her to attack, the more times this 15% chance will trigger, the more times this triggers, the more times this triggers, and the more chance you have of actually boosting rage. So that's kind of the role I see her for. She's going to do damage, but more importantly, she's going to boost rage if you get her speed as fast as you humanly can. Again, we're not testing that part today. Honestly, the reason is because I just got access to the test server. I really want to get kind of a first look for her out there, and then we'll maybe look at putting together a team to see how that synergy works in a team atmosphere and see how much more she can do for the entire team. And I have some ideas around that, but that'll be in a follow-up video coming soon to a channel near you. By a channel near you, I mean this channel. So with her kit, now we want to take a look at for every 2 ultimates activated by faction allies, including this hero, it'll trigger Sinful Lash 1 time. And again, that's at 400 damage to an enemy in range. So again, there's more Nightmare Council. If you have her paired up with a full Nightmare Council team, this is going to pop off and it's going to do tons of extra damage on top of it. We're not going to see that in this particular case, but again, and I hate next video, because I know you guys are like, well, why did you just put it in this video? Well, there's a long story. Maybe I'll tell you at the end of this video. So there she is. Let's take a look at the gear. Now, bear in mind, I don't have the best gear on the test server, but I have gear that I'm going to compare to the other champions. So we're going to use the same gear in all 3 champions. Let's take a look at her stats. 15, 357 attack with 30k HP, so some survivability too. We did get 1 second off her 2.6 attack interval, which is going to get her at 1.6 with a 326 attack speed, crit rate at 83, and crit damage at 266. Hopefully we can get gear that will actually crit cap at some point. I don't know how to get more gear. What I know is the gear that I had to roll up, and this is what we got. This is the best we got, so we're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. All right, so what I'm going to do, let's take her right now into the guild. We're going to hit the guild boss easy with her, Dolores, and Aelin, and we're going to see what her damage is, and then we're going to repeat those tests, although I'm not going to record all 3 just because you don't need to see the other 2. We're going to do one with Falcia. We do one with Hex, just so you have kind of baseline understanding. You know that Hex does real good damage, and he's got a wider cap too. And then we'll talk about what we got for the results and see what happens. So let's head to the guild boss next. All right, here we are in the Guild Boss. Like I said, we're going to bring these 3 in. We're going to... I could hit play test, but they give us so many of those stones. Look, why not use them? I feel like it'd be rude of me. Keep in mind, again, test server. Okay, so let's drop down Arrogance, Dolores, and we'll put Aelin right behind. So you're looking at 28. You see that 28, 452. I want to see what happens when she lashed someone. I don't see any extra damage though. Didn't it read like as soon as she lashes someone? Is it only if it's Nightmare? I thought she got the extra damage no matter what. So there was a whip. 28, 462. I'm gonna make sure the alts are popped with Dolores every time so that we have a consistent pace. $28, 452. 28, 452. I'm a little bit concerned. Okay, let's pop alts here for the first time. 56, 98. Oh, there's a whole bunch of... Yeah, the damage has gone bonkers. As it should in the ultimate. She's gaining all that extra damage. She's also popping burning. You can see 19-4 on the burns. I don't know if I'm really seeing what the whip damage is doing. It seems like it's not getting any extra damage, and I don't know what we're missing here. Obviously, if we don't crit, there'll be a few times we don't crit. Let's go to 2 times now. I'm very confused to see that it looks like the damage isn't changing when she whips. Maybe it is. Oh shoot, I did that wrong. Well, her ult's really quick, so. No, it's not. We gotta restart. Fuck me. Okay, here we go. This is the Guild Boss fight. We are we're gonna drop her down at 1 time speed so we can see.
Let's whip them like the dogs they are. Dance with me.
Okay, so she's doing 28, 32, 28, 32, 28, 32, 28, 28, 28, 28. So it looks like the 32 is after a whipping. After she whips one of her allies, it looks like she's going from 28 to 32. But I can't, it's really hard to see because now I don't see her getting whipped. All right. Yeah, it's really hard to see, but I assume that's what that is. All right, let's see what her ult does here. And yeah, no, 98, 98, plus the 19 burning, 147, so that must be that big boost. Look at those 147s and 98s, 116. It's really hard for me to see where that whip damage is, even in 1 time. But, by the way, Dolores, we don't have Keen Wisdom. We don't have the, I guess it's the mud bucket. So we are using the whatever the one is that speeds up attack, which is good for this champion anyway. So I don't know. I mean, the damage looks okay. It's not blowing me away. Is it better than Silas and or Hex? Probably not. Now I do want to mention. Now's a good time to mention it. She is going to compare in her play style, I think, similarly to Falcia. Though they do different things, I think both of them really benefit from high speed with good damage. And in the case of her, she even benefits even more from just as much speed as possible to help her team out. And I think if she was in a Nightmare team, I think that's where she's going to excel exceptionally, whereas Falcia pretty much can excel in all teams. In fact, her faction team is kind of the weakest of them all as for damage and really isn't going to be that impactful in my opinion. But she's going to benefit the team obviously the most. Whereas Hex, this is actually an unfair test for Hex because Hex is going to be much better when you have rage regen, right? So if we're just putting them all in the same gear, he's going to do good damage. He's probably going to out damage them. But where his ceiling is even higher is when you can cycle his alt quicker. He is exceptionally better than the two of these from what I've seen. Definitely than Falcia and probably also from Lust. But I got to say, so far, just looking at the damage, I think I'm pretty okay with her damage. It's probably not going to beat either of the other two, but when you consider that unlike the other two, she is directly improving the damage of her teammates, I think that's a big deal. And as a team synergy, I think she might. I mean, obviously Hex. She's not going to be better than Hex overall because Hex in a Infernal team is bonkers, right? Like especially in the Dragon in the Guild Boss. But it gives us an idea. So let's see what it is. 24,231. I'm going to write that down. 24,231,000. Not bad at all, to be honest with you. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run offline and give you the each of the Falcia and Hex runs just so you kind of have a comparison. I think Hex works well. A lot of you are probably getting Hex this weekend, so it's a good time to compare those. So let's run that and then I'll be right back. All right, so exact same gear, even exact same hard artifact, the Wailing Skull fully maxed out. The gear here, skills are fully maxed out. You can see 15,792. We've got a 1.2 second attack interval. We've got 326, 266, 83. So we've got very similar stats here. What is that going to look like at the end? Let's find out. So let's pop in here. I'm going to run this. I'm not going to make you watch it all. We're just going to show the damage results. All right, here we are, and the stats for Falcia, 25,682. 5,682. Now I've run this a couple times, and that's kind of the lowest difference between the two that I've seen. So there is a bit of RNG involved. Falcia actually hit lower. That 24 million, it's always been 23 to 24 million for Lust. That 25.6 is low. It's usually around 27, but nonetheless, she is hitting harder. So in the same gear, same everything, a little bit harder hitting, but I think that bodes pretty well for Lust. I think that makes Lust even more, makes us even lust after a little bit more because she's going to make your Nightmare team so much stronger, whereas Falcia really doesn't have a whole lot of synergy with her faction, other than she's just a really good champion to plop down in just about every situation. So we got one more fight to do. Let's go in. Let's get Hex in there to kind of give you a baseline of what a top-end guild boss champion can do. Keeping in mind, we are not rage regenning him. We are not using different means by which he is going to completely pop off. So this is just going to be baseline without all the different techniques. So, you know, just keep in mind that Hex may not blow them his way as much as he should in where you're putting a team around him to do so. Okay, so we'll be right back. All right, here's our Hex. First off, artifact. Do you even have to ask? We're going to use Spirit Siphon. Just overall, it's a pretty consistent one for the guild boss for his class. So that's the one we're going to use. And then for gear, we're using the same gear as everyone else. Total stats going to be 13,921, 1.2 attack interval, a much better starting attack interval. So he's potentially going to hit obviously a little bit quicker, and 83%, 266. There is some RNG because of the crit rate. I get it. Auto regen is really what's going to hurt. They all have 18.5 regen. We all know Hex's regen lasts the longest and is the slowest to get back. So that's going to affect him a little bit, which is why he is so much stronger than the other two when you put Hollow with him, Eloin, any other sort of rage regen champion that can work with him. But anyway, let's get Hex into the fight and see what difference he makes. All right. And as expected, and I actually messed up some timings on his ult, so he should have been even higher damage. I wasn't paying attention, and I wanted to get his ult for the last like 40 seconds because it's a 35-second ult, and I accidentally hit it about 25. So he potentially even more damage, but over 30 million compared to 24, 25, so significantly better. Just to give you an idea, I only do that just so you know that they're not going to outclass the top damage dealers. But I will say that I do like Lust. So without further ado, why don't we go back to Lust and we talk about final thoughts on this champion. All right, everybody, my final thoughts, and I hate to call it final thoughts because it is the first look of this champion. I'm sure I'll have more thoughts as we do more testing. Before I get to my final thoughts, would you like me to do a comparison test when I have a little bit more time to flesh out the whole team? I don't even know if I have the gear for it. It may be at some time. I'm sure Fastidious and the others will get to it first, but would you like to see me put together an all-nightmare team with, with maybe a twin? I'm going to actually say with I was going to say Twin Fiend, I don't know, with a Wrath at the helm. Maybe get Abomination in there and put together a nightmare team to be worthy of that she can do. It would have to be a 5-man team in the guild boss and see what kind of damage she can do in synergy. What I would do is we saw how close her and Falcia are. I could literally just put Falcia in the team and then put her in the team. So obviously with Falcia, she's not going to get the Lord bonus. So I'll actually put a Lord in the team. This is my thought. Just hear me out on this one. I'll give a Lord bonus for Falcia, but I won't deploy that Lord, and I'll put 4 Nightmare with Falcia so that they're all getting Lord bonuses so everyone's getting a Lord bonus basically. And then I'll take out Falcia. Obviously, we'll take out the Lord for Falcia as well, and we'll put in Lust, and we'll do that synergy of just an all nightmare team. And we want to see, does she do a lot more damage than Falcia, and how does the whole team perform when they have her on the team? Because as the kit reads, I think it'll be very impactful getting this extra rage regen, getting the extra sinful lashes. I think all that combined is going to, over a sustained period of time, like it is in the clan boss, it's going to be pretty impactful. So let me know in the comments down below, would you like to see that? As for my final thoughts on Lust, I'm kind of lusting for her. Here's my thoughts. There are 3 types of people that are going to be pulling and potentially getting Lust. We'll say 4. The first one is, if you have Arrogance, you absolutely want Lust. Arrogance is an amazing champion. He does amazing damage. He is a beast of a champion in the guild boss in so many different areas. And you're just saying, hey, when you run your ultimate, I'm going to give you an extra 15% attack. Now, keep in mind, that attack is on the end. So that's going to be a ridiculous amount of extra damage just by having Lust on your team. So if you have Arrogance, you cannot wait till Lust is available on the public server. Obviously, right now we're on the test server. She's not available to you. If you do not have Arrogance, but you have a good Nightmare team that you use, typically you use Wrath, you're using Arrogance, both free-to-play friendly champions that are easy to obtain, one by means of a fusion, the other by means of free login with an A1 that he comes free with, then absolutely Soul Stones to get your Wrath up to A5. Is she going to help those two in a synergy? Absolutely. So if you have a good Nightmare team, even if you don't have Arrogance, I think you're pretty hyped to be able to put Lust onto that team and see what she can do to boost that rage, and then of course also boosting her Sinful Ash to do some great synergistic things, faction trials, guild, everywhere else. If you're a free to play, low spend, you don't have a big Nightmare team, but you're looking for someone to help you with damage, she's going to do that very similarly, I think, into the Falcia. She still has a role to play, though she is not fully maximizing and utilizing her kit if you are not using her in a Nightmare team. But I think she'll still be fun to play with, and I think you can still find use with her, especially if you're a lower spend and you have fewer kind of fighters, that sort of thing. She is, in a way, a plug-and-play for some medium-level damage. So I think you'll be okay if you pull her. She's not going to be you're not going to be lusting for her, but I think she can turn you around once she gets on your team. The fourth one, if you're a waifu, yeah, you want her. Let's not get ourselves. So those are my final thoughts on Lust. What do you think? Are you lusting after? Can you not wait? When's she coming to the public server? Whoa, are you getting excited now? Let me know in the comments down below. But as always, I am Matt Capper. This is it. Please be kind, be safe, and as always, we'll see you in the next video.